Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you all are. I am Hima Reddy, as Jeanette said, and yes, we met a year ago in February in New York, but I realized today, Jeanette, that today, this Toast to Traders is the 1-year anniversary of me joining the Toast to Traders team. I don't know, I can't say that right now, but I think it was, June 24th maybe last year, the June Toast to Traders, and it's kind of crazy what's all happened in a year. So I want to dive right in, but I feel like I'm the cheerleader at halftime in this event because I got the noon spot and we have a couple more hours after y'all sitting here for a few hours. So first, do this for me, everybody, okay? If you've been sitting all morning, nothing wrong with that, then please stand if your doctor allows it, or at least shake your legs out or something, okay? Get some blood flowing again because this is a lot of great information you're absorbing all day. So if you are sitting and you're standing now, type the word stand for me and just take that second. Don't worry, I'm not going to make us behind. This is important in order for you to be able to keep on going. All right, now, if you've been standing for some reason or leaning or doing whatever, then just again, if your doctor allows it, shake your knees out, bend your knees, squat, whatever you need to do. These online trainings with multiple speakers, especially TradeThirsty speakers, are amazing, but they can get a little, bit of a wear down. So now that we're all stretched out, I'm going to dive right in. Do the twist. Yes, Priscilla, you can do the twist if your hips allow it. Okay. So here my presentation is more than mean reversion, trading with RSI power zones. And what this concept is that, with momentum indicators, which I think some of the traders here have talked about today, you're generally trying to find a turn in the market and trade that reversal. And that's great. But you can use momentum, specifically the RSI, and the way I use it, to actually trade with the trend. And I'm going to teach you how I do that today. But before we do that, important reminder, trading and investing can be extremely risky business. So it's your responsibility to evaluate any information, opinion, advice, or other content contained in my presentation. So for all on the same page, I have you all, you've stood, you've sat, you've done whatever, then just type a 1 for me, and we're going to dive right in. I got to make sure I still have your ears here. All right, awesome. Thank you. Andrew, Jerry, Como, Mark, John, Jeff, Priscilla, great. So this is me, Hima Reddy. I've been studying, analyzing, trading markets, or some combination of that for over 16 years. And I first learned about them when I was a teenager from my own father. Now, his day job is being a doctor, but he's super active in his retirement accounts. And I happened to sneak in asking for homework help one night. I remember it was chemistry. And he had all these screens up and was trading, he told me, but he didn't have a newspaper out and he didn't have the TV on. And he told me he was using supply and demand analysis to make trades. And he'd been doing it since the 80s and making money off it. I thought, this is fantastic. So on my dad's recommendation, I went and studied finance. And I chose Indiana University, go Hoosiers, and left my home state of New York. You can see I lived over here in Long Island. And I studied really hard and I graduated on time. I did everything by the book. But when it came to learning about finance and the markets in the way I wanted to, right? Supply, demand, volume, candles, like you see here, I saw next to nothing. And it really upset me because I wanted to go make a living off this stuff that I saw my dad doing on the side. So he struck a deal with me. He said, look, you can move home and work part-time, and I will use that other half of your time to teach you how I trade and invest. So that was our deal. Self-made father-daughter graduate school. So I moved home after college. Okay, I'm a fresh, young 22-year-old ready to learn, and I get handed this intimidating-looking book, How to Make Profits Trading in Commodities by this guy, W.D. Gann. And what happened was, in getting this information, as you can imagine, as a young person, I thought, ooh, this is what I'm supposed to read? This looks pretty old. And my father said, yes, this is pretty old. Gann was a trader in the 1920s to 40s to 50s, way back. But his concepts have stood the test of time, and this is what has become the core of my dad's trading. So I said, all right, I will go ahead and dive right in. And what I did was I got set up with my dad's help with TradeStation software and a small brokerage account. And my dad had me also, while reading the book, bring up this chart you see here. Okay, E-mini S&P 500 futures, 1-minute bar chart. Does anyone in here trade the ES or any equity index futures? You can type in E for me, E for equity indexes. Awesome, great. It's a very wild animal that is tamed now and then. And when it first came out, I think it was 97, this was a super wild market. So by the time my dad was training in it, I mean, it just traded like crazy every day. So his point was to get me to observe price action. And he gave me this assignment. Watch this for 3 hours a day. You can pick the timings, you know, run the open, close, lunch if you want, and do this for 6 weeks. Half of my summer, I'm graduating from college. I was like, oh gosh, this does not sound fun, but okay, this is what my teacher's telling me, I'm going to follow. So what I did was I started paying attention to the markets. I didn't take any trades. I didn't do anything. I was literally sat there as if on my hands watching the price action. And then it didn't take very long, a couple of weeks, honestly, between reading the book and watching the action, because this was my full-time, my thing here, right, while I worked at Starbucks and all kinds of places on the side. And then I started to see the signals come up, these buy and sell signals, the way they were described in the book, you know, on multi-year commodity charts, but here on my little 1-minute ES chart. So I thought, all right, this is now making sense. So as I got more involved and then started actually trading, I felt like my trading would be better in my execution and my management if I kind of came in each night with a game plan, or each morning, I should say. So what I did was I took all the signals I was learning about and I made these illustrations so that I had them handy. That helped me recognize setups faster. And I started writing my own little report. And this is a screenshot of an email I sent to my dad. You can see back in 2005. This was not the first of these, but it was one of the earlier ones. And I called it the skinny on the mini. The skinny, and you know, American English slang just means, you know, the key points, the essence, the most important aspects, you could say. And the mini, obviously, is the E-mini. So I wrote a few paragraphs for myself each night after the market closed and after some of the early after hours trading. So around 7, 8 p.m., I'd say, okay, what went down today and what do I see for tomorrow? And you can see as early as 2005, I was referencing the RSI power zones, which we're going to dig into in just a few minutes. So I started sharing these with my dad. You can see I forwarded to him and I yelled at him because he didn't look at my email the night before. So I was forwarding it again. And lo and behold, my dad started using these reports. He didn't tell me at first. First, he was just like, yeah, sure, I'm reading them. Then he started using them to kind of refine his own E-mini trades. And then he revealed to me after a couple of weeks, Hima, I've been using your research and it's actually helping me get more out of my winning trades, take my losses faster. And we thought, wow, this is awesome. So I had a bit of a revelation. Okay, that's what this white space represents. And it was like, all right, I'm learning to be actively involved in doing the trading, but I actually really love the analysis and finding the setups. And so I thought, you know, I really want experience working professionally in this, working out on Wall Street, just to see what people besides my own father have to say. So I decided, all right, I've got to get designated or certified. And I found the CMT Association, and they put out the Chartered Market Technician designation. Sounds super fancy. Really, it means I can read charts and you can hire me on Wall Street and not have to worry that I'm going to, you know, not know the basics. That's essentially what it means. Now, after a few years of working at my first job, after getting this designation, somebody heard my story about GAN and my early introduction into technical analysis. And lo and behold, I get this opportunity to write my own book on GAN's work. The original title for the first edition was The Trading Methodologies of W.D. GAN. It was published by FT Press, and this was back in 2012. And since then, it has sold out, like shelves are empty. It's reselling on Amazon for hundreds of dollars. I'm telling you right now, don't put your money there. Just wait a few months, maybe 6 months or 8 months, depends, because now I'm republishing with Wiley. Same book, but a little bit amped up second edition. We'll have some new content, but we'll repeat what I had 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I'm really excited about that because, again, I love coming up with the setups and explaining to people what has been working for me. So as you might imagine, after you become a published author in any field, especially in trading and investing, suddenly you have a following. Your Venn diagram expands out quite a bit, as you see here. So before, it was just my dad getting skinny in the mini. Then I had all these different people, book readers, webinar attendees like you guys, my technical analysis colleagues, all starting to get this work as well. And I put it out as a free blog, and I just kept writing it because I had an independent research job, and so I could still do my own analysis and put it out in the world. There was no compliance, no issue. And things went pretty well with that. Now, life continued on. I married this handsome guy here, my husband, who is from Wisconsin, as the arrow indicates. And on our journey for his job as a cancer surgeon, we moved to Minnesota. Now, I never thought I'd live in the Midwest, let alone Minnesota. I also never thought that he would be successful in converting me into a t-shirt wearing and a bratwurst eating Green Bay Packers football fan. If you guys watch football, go ahead and type an F for me, because you'll find my explanation might indicate here in a few minutes a little bit more entertaining. And if you don't worry about it. You'll still understand. All right, cool. We've got Dale, we've got Daniel, a couple football fans. Awesome. Now, given my husband's Midwestern roots, given the jobs we both ended up getting in Minnesota, we moved there for his role, but I ended up getting a position at a boutique investment bank in the equity research division as a technical analyst. That's pretty rare, guys. It's mostly fundamental analysts, but there was this whole awesome team led by another CMT, and here I was. It was basically my dream job, okay? Not necessarily my dream work, but my dream job if I was going to be employed by somebody else. So I realized this is an investment bank. I cannot have my own projects going on the side. Compliance totally said, no more skinny in the mini, Hima. You got to shut it down indefinitely. So I went back to all these people who had now been getting my skinny in the mini for all this time and said, look, guys, I'm going to have to stop. I don't know if it's ever going to come back, but it's definitely stopping for now. And then they started telling me how sad they'd be to see it go. Okay, this was free analysis just put out every trading day on a blog floating around. I think it took me a year before I even started a list of the emails of people wanting to get it directly. Yet they were depending on it and using it in a lot of the same ways my dad had told me he'd been using it. My supports and resistances, my key timing points, and the way I use the RSI. So I thought, okay, I have got to bring this back. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to have to. Life moved on again, and this time not with such a happy tone. While my husband did get a different job in upstate New York, back in my home state, my father died at the same time. Literally, he passed away a few days after we were moving in here in Buffalo. My mom was up here in Buffalo with us, not home in Long Island with him. And it was very sudden. He had a heart attack in his sleep, so went to bed, didn't wake up. Peaceful way to go, but not something that's easy to deal with when you're the receiving family of that. And my whole world just shattered, not just because I lost my father, but because my whole family just was a mess. I have 3 younger siblings. They didn't know anything about how to pay for the mortgage or handle the finances or anything like that. My mom was very unwell. She was literally like a shell of a person for 6 months. Thank God she's fine now, but it was hard. And my wonderful husband said, look, Hima, you got to be there for your family. I don't know if you can really go find another sell-side analyst job here in Buffalo and still be there for them. What are you going to do? I thought, you know what? This is it. This is the time to think about bringing back the skinny and the mini. After I tend to the legal stuff, the estate stuff, and my family, I'm going to do it. So the summer of that year, 2016, I came back to all these folks who'd been getting the skinny and the mini previously. Thankfully, I saved their email addresses. I wrote them a message. I updated them on my life. And I said, look, my dad had always told me, hey, Hima, you really should be charging for this research. If you don't believe me, start with $1 a day and then ramp it up from there. So I literally started by charging $1 a day and had all of these people wanting to take me up on it. It was pretty awesome because they had been getting this research for free previously, right? Then it just disappeared. And when it came back at an investment, that the fact that they were still willing to proceed with it and allow me to turn this into my life's work, my dream work. Remember, I had a dream job, but this is my dream work, to be here with people like you and educate you on what's worked for me. Well, this was pretty awesome, and I felt a little bit like, my dad's hand from up above was helping me out. So I said, all right, this is it. I'm going full blown, and like Jeanette and I mentioned earlier, just a few months after that, I met her at Traders Expo, heard about TradeThirsty, and then boom, everything exploded from there. Because even though I was putting out this research, my subscribers also wanted me to know or teach them how I was coming up with these levels. What was I putting together in my head each day that allowed me to make such accurate calls on the E-mini very often? And Jeanette and team are the ones who helped me figure out, how do you do this? Not just the logistics of it in terms of the computing and the programming, but how do I take what's been in my head that I've been doing for 16 years and put it into form where you can learn? So I think it's important for me to make that shout out. And if I've still got you with me here, all right, we're about a quarter of the way into my presentation, go ahead and type an S for story, an S for skinny, an S for gonna stick around with you, Hima. I'm gonna hear what you have to teach me. Awesome. Thank you. Andrew, Jerry, John, Mark, Jeff, Nizar. Yadao. That's an interesting, cool name. Okay. Thank you. Now, we get to learn. So all of story time, stretching time is over. Now, if you don't have already a pen and paper or a notepad app open or something, get it open. Okay. Because I'm about to teach here. Like I said, I have now been developing my techniques into courses and material online that you can all invest in and ingest. Now, here's the current offerings, okay? Skinny and the Mini, and then I've got these 3 other educational courses. This will grow, but I'm going to literally take a sneak peek or give you a sneak peek of my course, Top Trading Strategies Using RSI Power Zones, by literally teaching you the first lesson out of it. Okay, this is an actual setup that I use and that my students now use that has benefited them. So what is the setup? Well, before I show you the setup, I need to make sure all of you understand how I use the RSI Power Zones indicator as titled and what that really means. So let's go back to the roots. Let's go back to the basic RSI. And to make sure you all understand how the RSI works, let's use football. Because like I said, after almost 7 years of marriage, I know it better than I ever thought I would. So here is an American football field, guys. Looks a lot like the soccer one that's going on, you know, over in Russia. But the difference is we've got 0 to 100 yards, right? Defined zones here. Each one of these lines is 10 yards apart. 10 yards are just 3 feet, in case you didn't know. And we have 2 teams on either side of the ball. We've got the Green Bay Packers and, for example, their rivals, the Chicago Bears. Now, whoever has the ball here, they're the ones in control of that current momentum, that current play, and they are trying to get to their zone to score points. You cannot score points here in the middle of the field. This ball has to somehow enter the zone. So when the Packers have the ball, they've got to get through the Bears defense and get to that end zone. Either score a touchdown for 6 points, kick a field goal for 3 points, whatever. When the when the Bears have the ball, they have the same idea except on the other side. They've got to get through the Packers defense, get over to the end zone, and make their points. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this whole football field, turn it on its head, all right, and we're going to shrink it down and plop it on a chart. This is what that looks like. So there's a lot of information here, and I have the same layout every time I'm walking through a market example or a setup. So let me make sure you all understand what's here. Okay, follow along. I will use a little bit of a highlighting tool. What the chart is, it's here, but I keep like a light color on TradeStation. So I reiterate it here in full words. E-mini S&P 500 futures. Continuous contract. This is taking each front month contract and connecting it out. So if you go way back in time, you wouldn't be on the September contract anymore. You'd be looking at price action from the June contract or the March contract, back and forth like that. Now, this is a daily chart, so each one of these candlesticks represents 1 day. I'm going through this in this way, guys, because some of you might be brand new to trading. In fact, why don't you please type an N for me if you consider yourself a newbie. New to trading, really still trying to just learn a lot, and my explanation of the basics makes sure that you have everything laid out. Awesome. Okay, welcome, Jeff, Christian, Banu, Marcel, not just to Toasted Traders, but to the world of trading. Now, time frame. Okay, daily is a time frame, but what snapshot I'm getting is the last thing I list. So the first bar back here is May 15, 2017, and this is current. I captured this yesterday, so it was some time before market close. Now, that is the build out of any chart example I show you here. What's on the bottom? Look, it's an indicator that moves from 0 to 100, just like my little football field. And this is the relative strength index. Now, the relative strength index was put out by Wells Wilder in 1978, a long time ago. Around the same time, a bunch of technical analysts started working on the indicator kind of to pull more out of it. And you'll see why. Because first I'm going to show you the standard settings, the way Mr. Wilder put it out, and then we're going to immediately put that aside and do more with this. Now, one thing on the standard setting that we are not changing at all is the 14-period setting, okay? That means that the math that this indicator is doing, it's all coming off price, guys, okay? This is a price-based indicator, is only looking at the past 14 days of trading. If it was an hourly chart, it'd be the past 14 hours. If it was a weekly chart, it'd be the past 14 weeks, etc. Do not mess with the 14 periods if you want to use RSI power zones the way I do. It is vitally important that you don't. So important that I please ask you to type a 14 for me. And until I see a bunch of 14s fill my screen, I'm not moving on because I need to know that you're not going to mess with the time setup on this indicator. Thank you. Okay, I want to see him come. Yes, great. Now, we leave the 14 alone, but here's the first traditional approach, just so you guys know, again, because you maybe never seen this before. Above 70, this indicator automatically turns red on my TradeStation. Then, when you see that happen, it's not an automatic sell signal, but it is where sell signals live. So you can see here I have 70 off to the side, and you can see in this first purple box here, this indicator got red, but it stayed red for a long time on this daily chart. And this was a period during price was continuing higher. So you might be thinking, especially if you're new to the RSI, well, this is not really helping me out in a strong uptrend. You'd be exactly right. In fact, most traditional technical analysts use the RSI for range trading only, meaning when markets are moving sideways like they did out in the first part of this year. But I want to show you how to trend trade with the RSI. So first, we're, again, going to change the way we look at the indicator, and then I'm going to teach you a setup on that. So above 70 is considered overbought. That's the terminology. Sell signals live up there. So these are just a few zones where, sure, ultimately, right, being overbought was a helpful sell signal up here. But look how long you had to wait. This is not healthy for your ego that's combating you on every trade setup. All right. Already, as humans, we already have this feeling of wanting to just be right and pick things as soon as they're over. So you would be top picking all this way, finally give up, and then realize you had been right. So this is not a healthy approach if this is, a situation where you're using the standalone indicator. Same thing for the downside, okay? Below 30, so 30 is this line right out here. That's where buy signals live. On TradeStation, the indicator turns blue. Okay, here, that was a buy signal. That was fine. That was great. But what about all this stuff along the way back here, right? How would you have been able to use the RSI to take advantage of any of those moves in the direction of the trend? Well, with the traditional approach, you wouldn't necessarily. But I'm going to show you now how we change the overbought, oversold settings here to make more of the RSI. So when it comes to using only the standard overbought and oversold settings, we are very politely going to call BS. And now I'm going to show you what the new ones will be. So remember the Bears. Okay, this is where the football vision kind of helps. Remember I said that the Bears have to get through the Packers defense to get to their end zone. Well, the market bears similarly live in a certain part of this field or indicator range from 0 to 100. And here's how this plays out. Generally, markets that are trending lower or consolidating with a bearish tilt find resistance between 55 to 65, what I call the bear resistance power zone. Okay, these numbers that I'm showing you, and you'll see them when we move from this traditional indicator to my updated one in the next slides. I did not invent these numbers. I learned about them when I was studying for the CMT. But everything I learned about this setup for this indicator was just step one. Over the past 16 years, I have developed signals, systems, strategies around them, and that's all me, right? So 55 to 65 is the first set of numbers to jot down, that is where a bear market gets overbought. And where does the bear market tend to get oversold? Well, you still have the traditional 30 included, but now we're creating a whole zone pushing down to 20. By having this entire zone of oversold readings, it actually allows you to not, get in the trap of catching a falling knife, as my dad used to say. All right. When a market is falling sharply, yeah, it probably will bottom out at some point, but you don't want to stick your hand and have that knife go through it. Okay. You want as much confidence and evidence from the charts as possible that the bottom is here, and then you can exit your short or go long. So if you guys have these bear zones down now, go ahead and type an R for the last letter of bear, and then we'll move on to the bull zones. Great. So the market bulls, now that we've established that the bears live in kind of the lower part of this chart, the bulls live in the upper part. What exact parts? 80 to 90 is the bull resistance power zone. That means that a bull market, a strong market, a market with an upward bias to break out, is more likely to be considered overbought at 80 to 90, not just above 70. So you can see how laying this on to the traditional indicator, suddenly our overbought readings are now diminished down to all of this, whereas before it was all the red. All right. So this prevents you again from top picking. Okay. Instead of catching the falling knife, this prevents you from trying to jump onto a speeding train that is about to run into a mountain. Okay. Just because you get on the last stop on the train doesn't mean the train is going as far as you'd like it to. So you got to keep an eye on the pace of markets and make sure that you're trying to get the broad chunk of the move in the middle, okay? Getting in at this particular high and this particular low, well, that would be pretty fantastic. And maybe people do it. But what if you could at least get in here and say, get out here? That's pretty great too, right? So this is what the RSI power zones help you do. The bull support power zone is from 40 to 50. This means that in a bull market, in a uptrending market, in a market that is tilted to break out to the upside, it gets oversold at a higher platform than the traditional 30. So when you take your eyes back here, you can see how in this uptrend on the daily chart, here was 40 to 50. Here it was as well. We traded down a little bit lower, but we held, came back up. Here we held again. This time here in January, February was the first time in a while that the continuous ES chart on the daily time frame broke below the bull support power zone. And that was the first clue that we would have consolidation or further weakness ahead. Okay. So those are the bull market zones, as I call them. So if you've got those down, please type in L for me, L for the last letter in bull. And then we'll move on to the setup that you can use with these zones. Great. Thank you. You're going to see these numbers again. So if you didn't catch them for some reason, don't worry about it. You will see them again. Now, RSI power zones can be used for analysis and signals on any active market in any time frame. Here are a few examples. Take a look at these asset classes, guys, and these time frames. If you see one here that you trade or you consider in your analysis, please type an M. M for me, so that I'm not just picking random things that nobody trades. You will confirm for me if my selection here is actually relevant. Okay. Now, there's quite a few different things here. So let's take a look at an individual stock on a daily chart. Just figure that's a good middle ground place to start. Now, here's a crazy thing. Okay, this doesn't always happen, but you will notice, as you saw with my charts here, as my current preparation for trainings like this allows, I take the time getting close to the event to update my chart examples for you guys to be as current as possible. Okay, it's just something I particularly do. I can still teach with using prior examples, but I want to try to get your head into what's happening in the market now. So you can see I captured a chart that's pretty relevant to the current market action, right? Well, I did the same thing the last time I opened doors to my top trading strategies using RSI power zones, which was back in February for, again, a Toasted Traders event, okay? So I'm going to walk you through the signal setup, but then I want you to remember that the first evidence we walked through, the first example we walked through, I literally stated publicly here 4 months ago. And then you can see how it played out. So here is the first setup. And it's called RSI Trendline Buy Signal. Okay, that's the name for it. And here's what it's involved. I would recommend on this one, if you have a screen capture software or even just like a smartphone, just take a photo when the slide is done, or you can write notes on the side, but I will wait a moment after the complete slide is appeared. Step one, price needs to be in an uptrend that's either established and in place or forming. Okay, there are many different ways to confirm when a trend is reversing from down to up or from sideways to up, traditional technical analysis covers a lot of them. I focus on the approaches that Gann used. That's because obviously that was where my early introduction was. So step one, price uptrend. Again, either in place or forming. Step two, what you do is you draw a rising trend line. Okay, so use your trend line tool just like you would on price, but you draw it onto the RSI. You join lows. And the important thing here is that whatever the second low is you anchor to, that it's forming in the bull support power zone. Those numbers were 40 to 50. You will see them when I walk through the example now. Okay, so you draw on a trend line and you have to make sure that the second high or low, the second point of the trend line, is in the bull support power zone. Once this setup occurs, you monitor that trend line. If you get a third touch, meaning you get the RSI move back to that trend line and it holds at it and it confirms it and then starts moving higher again, this is your buy signal. You always, though, use price action to confirm a momentum signal. Okay, indicators are great. They can add value depending on how you use them, but I think the best indicator is price. RSI to me is second to price, always. So use price action to confirm the signal. Again, there's a variety of ways to do this, and I'll walk through the ones that I see here. So here is Netflix. Again, following my little labels here. Netflix on a daily chart, October 4th, 2017 to current. Captured this yesterday. And this was a call that I made at Toasted Traders on February 24th. If you don't want to take my word for it, I guess you could go harass Jeanette for a recording or something like that. I don't advise that. But trust me, I don't need to make this claim. I could have just shown you other recent examples, but the fact that I literally said this the last time I taught this class kind of shocked me even. So I was like, all right, let's see what happened from it. So here's what I said on February 24th, and I'm going to teach it to you here, and then we'll see what came of it. Price uptrend in place. Well, here we've got higher highs, higher lows. All right, this market was in an uptrend. We've got to draw that trend line, right? And we got to make sure the second low is in the bull support power zone. So here are two lows. There was an extreme low in the momentum, and then there was this second low. Now, there were other lows along the way, because I know you guys are probably looking at those and saying, well, I don't want that tool. Give me a second here to get a pen, okay? You're like, what about this low, Hima? What about this low? Well, you could have drawn those along the way, but when I drew this signal out for people on February 23rd, these are the two key lows, because this was the low that preceded the breakout in price, right? There was all this consolidation here. So I like to pick the lows that are the most significant, that are not within a consolidation range. So if I've got you here with me and you understand step two here and what I just drew, go ahead and type a 2 for me, please. And then I'll make sure we go through this example slowly, and then I've got a few more for you. All right. Okay, so that yellow highlight just shows you where price was when the indicator did its thing. All right. Third touch of this line becomes the buy setup. Use price to confirm. This is the image I had. Okay. I drew the line. It continued out. You can see here that there was not an exact, we didn't come down in our side to that trend line and stay right at it. There was a little bit of a blip past it, but it was only one session or 2 sessions, I think, that it went past it. Then turned back higher, confirmed the trend line. Now, when I say use price to confirm, well, in this situation, let's look at what price had been doing and correcting lower, right? We made this high after this big gap over here. Then we had lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, another lower high, swing high. Then we had this candle form here. It's like a hammer. So when price moved above this lower high, that's when you could have drawn the trend line, but this is when I would start paying close attention to it, okay? Then, Jerry, I teach you how to identify these. I'm not selling you an automated system, but I have multiple signals and stop management and exit management and all around it, okay? Now, when you take this example here and you look forward out, here's what went down. This was February 26th. This was the Monday. This little green candle here was the Monday after that TradeThirsty event, right? February 24th was a Saturday. So if you had it set up such that all right, I'm going to take action when we continue higher, when we make new daily highs, then you could have taken action on February 26th. The open that day was 288.75. So just to keep things simple, I'm using the open for the entries and exits, okay? Because you're making the decision before this occurs that I want to buy in a breakout above this previous high. So let's just say you got in at the open. You just had your order sitting there overnight. If you followed this trade and again waited for price evidence to exit, actually this arrow should be moved over a little bit, but the exit March 14th, that's the correct date. If you did it at the open, okay, after a break below this little platform here, then you'd be out at 318.16. This is a $29.41 move that had a 10.2% share price increase. You can see it was February 26th to March 14th, so about 3 weeks. And this was something that I was bringing people's attention to after I taught them the RSI trendline buy setup. And then it happened to pan out. So you might think, well, Hima, you just got lucky, right? You made a call and this is what happened. But the thing is, I have found these signals so many times and found them reliable, especially when you're quantifying them with price, that this isn't that shocking. Okay. It was just interesting to me that it was a previous Toasted Traders event, so it was the same slide deck I was looking at. So if you guys understand this concept and see the value in being able to identify this, why don't you go ahead and type a V for me? V for value. And I'm going to keep showing you this. But I think one good example, especially of a call that I made that actually was manageable, helps. All right, cool. Glad to see it. Now, here's the crazy thing. After that trade, after that setup, there was another setup that showed again later. So if you had been at that event and learned this from me and not only taken this free lesson, but on top of that, invested in the course and moved along your way, you would have seen the following. Again, an RSI trendline buy. So we have a price uptrend in place. Now I'm looking at more of the bigger picture swings, okay? RSI trendline joining lows with the second higher low forming in the bull support power zone. Okay, let me take a second here to make sure you all understand the indicator down here. I realize that I didn't get into the nitty gritty. All I do is I take those zones that I explained to you in the earlier slide with the football field, and I have it programmed out on my indicator here, and I have this available for all the major softwares, Thinkorswim, NinjaTrader. This is on TradeStation, obviously, such that all of those lines are defined by these red or green zones lines. So it makes it super easy to see where the value is. If I didn't have those on there, which I didn't for many years, you just have to think every single time you see the value, okay, what value is this and what zone is it in? But this makes it visually a lot easier, and it makes it faster for you to be able to draw your lines. So here you can see we had this RSI trend line that joined in. Now, you may be looking and saying, Hima, why wasn't this over here your second low? Well, that would have been the first low that maybe person drew, but look at all this consolidation that followed. Okay, you want to stay out of the way of consolidation when you're trying to measure momentum for a trade setup. Let the consolidation pass, then use that second confirmed low. Now that we have this big green candle here, then that was the much more reliable second low in this particular setup. Trade continues out, we had a little bit more, market continues higher, a little bit of a pullback, and then here there was the third touch of that line. This becomes your buy setup. You use price to confirm. So what does that look like? Here's where you could have bought, because you had a break above the most recent corrective high, right? So that's a confirmation that the uptrend is continuing. So let's say going long May 22nd at 334.05. Well, this trade isn't over. I don't have a signal to get out based on momentum. I don't have a signal to get out based on price completely. Sure, we had two bearish sessions here. And again, I captured this chart before the market closed yesterday. So as of June 21st, so as of Thursday, the highest bar here, this market closed at 415.44. So that amount of move that came just from this signal, which doesn't necessarily need to be exited yet if anybody was long it, was an $81.39 move thus far. It's 24.4% in share price increase. And this is not crazy numbers because we're talking about a FANG stock, right? But see how this signal appeared twice on this daily chart. And as long as this uptrend in Netflix stays the same, we might see more of them. Or if Netflix changes to a downtrend on the daily, it's possible, then we may be seeing the other version of it, RSI trendline sell, which I'm about to teach you, okay? So if you guys got this down with the Netflix, you understand the setup, you understand what I'm connecting, go ahead and type an X for Netflix. And now we're going to go to the RSI trendline sell, just the counterpart, the exact opposite for taking advantage of short trades. Okay, great. Here's the RSI trendline sell. Price downtrend, lower highs and lower lows in place or forming. Okay, just the exact opposite of the RSI trendline buy setup. Falling trendline, joining RSI highs with the second low high forming in the bear resistance power zone. Okay, so now instead of being in the second zone up from the bottom of the field from the zero, now we're looking at the second zone down from the top of the field, from the 100-yard line. Okay, again, in our little football field. And similarly, the third touch of this trend line provides that sell signal. And we always use price action to confirm the signal. What does this look like? Well, here's a stock again on a daily. I picked this again, just again, to kind of cover what most of you are probably looking at. Some version of stocks or maybe options where you're looking at the underlying stock action. And a daily chart is a good place to be able to monitor signals like these at first. So first we have to have a price downtrend. Well, this is a very choppy price action, but once this low was broken, this was a situation where I would feel safe to sell if there was some sort of rebound. Okay, the first downside target would only be this support here, so it would depend on the risk reward, but price downtrend after this low was broken. All right, there's a daily price downtrend, what, like 10, 15 bars here, yeah? After you see all this, do you see on the RSI the ability to connect two highs where the second lower high is at the bear resistance power zone? Yes, right here. So there's the line that you would draw. Because again, the second lower high needs to be in the bear resistance power zone. It needs to be forming below the 65. This is what price looked like at that point, but that is not where we would be coming in and drawing this line, right? After we had the break of this low and know that trend is down, we can still go back and draw the setup and wait for the signal and to see if it emerges. Here is where we got it emerge. We had a corrective rally and RSI came back and touched that line. It doesn't need to come back to the bear resistance power zone on the third touch. In fact, the weaker and the better the angle of this, like a healthy 45 angle would be nice, but as long as we're in that zone, this is a nice trade to be able to make. If you make a trend line that's almost like a horizontal, then you have a much better chance of that being a false sell. So we want to draw a downtrend. Okay, as long as it's not parallel, it just has to be tilting down. Third touch of this line becomes a sell setup. Use price to confirm. So I'm going to be super conservative here and say, with the following here, that until this price action right here, okay, few days out from these two giant red candles, you wouldn't be necessarily confident that this was over. This is just based on the current action here, right? I could come in and do my GAN analysis. We could go intraday. We could layer stuff into here. But just taking what's on this chart right now, let's say the most conservative entry, meaning we are waiting as best we can for the top to be formed, is going short April 23rd at 251.66. So that's this bar right here. I think this is this big red candle. If you rode that all the way down and waited for price to tell you that it's turning higher and might be reversing to a downtrend, or excuse me, to an uptrend, then let's say you waited through all this and then after you got this hammer candle, you got a closing confirmation above it, well then the next day you want to get out and capture your profits, fine. So you exit your long by going long, excuse me, at 236 on May 7th. Okay. This right here was a $15.66 move in 11 trading days. Not too shabby. But I'm trying to make the point of what the setup is so that you can start looking for it. If this GS example helps you understand that, go ahead and type a G for me, and then I have another one for you. Great, great. Now let's move to equity index future, my baby, the ES, and let's look at an intraday chart. This is a screenshot, actually not a screenshot, this is the exact image file from one of my recent Skinny on the Minis. How do you know this? Well, look up here. First of all, it has my Skinny on the Mini branding on it. I only do that when it's a chart I publish for the Skinny. This was the June contract of the ES, so not the current front month, but it was from a little over a month ago. And this is when I actually published, such that the line I have drawn here, guys, this gray dashed line on the R side, this is not a PowerPoint add-in for me to teach you. That is the line I had drawn for my subscribers when I published that day, okay? But what we're seeing here is that I'm going to reveal the white space that shows what happened after the fact, but this trend line is something that I had brewing, okay? I didn't talk a lot about it. I drew it, though, and anybody who had taken this training that you're getting right now, and better yet, delved deeper and took the full course, they knew exactly what I was pointing to and what setup to watch for. So price downtrend, okay, yeah, we have a series of higher lows that have been broken, and now we still have lower highs in place. So when we see this line, okay, it's not super steep, it's not ideal, but it is definitely tilted down. Falling trend line joining RSI highs with the second high forming in the bear resistance power zone. Look at this price action that came later, okay? It's not like this is intraday, so it's not necessarily, the ticker is right up here. It's ESM18, ES June contract. So when you see this price action that came up off of it, it was a pretty messy upside correction, right? But this is where the setup comes in. The third touch of this line becomes a sell setup. Now, because this is intraday, you may have to wait for a little bit more confirmation because you have all this choppy kind of move. So here's what this looks like, where you can still trade off of this, but this signal didn't come right away, okay? All the other ones I showed you, the signal came relatively soon after. Here, this signal stayed intact, but what happened is you had a break. I'm going to kind of use this pen to draw through this, okay? You had a break of this low. So then you're like, all right, let me sell on a rebound. But the rebound retested the high, but this sell signal was still intact. So if you took the retracement, the 50% retracement, which is something that I teach in other courses of mine, and use that to define where you should look to enter your short, let's say that whether you did it as a limit order waiting for it to happen with a close stop, or you just let this market shake out, and then after you saw this candle with a very long upper tail, right, and a red body, that you took action and you went short at the open of the next bar, that's 2650. So 2650 is just the points, the way the ES is measured. In case you don't know, the ES is a 1/5 the size contract of the big S&P. So each point is $50. Now, let's say you let this move play out, and because you don't want to go into the overnight, this is a day trade, you got out on that next move where it showed that this was consolidation and you were close to the end of the day. 2625. Okay, these are conservative estimates I'm putting in just to kind of bring this setup to life and show you what could have been accomplished had you known this signal. This is a $1,250 move in 4 hours, guys. Okay, that's the kind of power that comes with ES trades. Doesn't mean that it is setups that you see every single day. And like, I'm big into comics and superheroes, so Uncle Ben, Spider-Man's uncle, right? He says, with great power comes great responsibility. So when you're in a market that moves a lot, and that scares some people about the ES or other equity index futures, it just means you have to kind of watch it more like a hawk. That's it. I use the Globex, Brad. I always use the full 24-hour session. I do not just use the pit trading. That is how my dad taught me. And I never saw the need to change back because I was pretty good in calling moves on it that way. All right, so we're going to now cover a couple of key components to using this particular method that are very important to remember. RSI trendline entry signals, two really important things. Number one, we are not concerned about the trend line staying intact long after getting the third touch signal. It may, but that is not our concern, okay? So I don't want you to be focused on that. In fact, fourth or fifth touches may occur, but we are focusing on the third touch of our signal. So the third touch, as long as it's staying intact and your trend is falling in line with it, then you can set up your trade in that direction that's indicated. But don't go and off this same trend line, look for the fourth or fifth touch signals because those are more risky. Those tend to be towards the ends of the existing trends. All right. So those are a couple key important points. Now, questions you likely have, but time is running out here. I mean, officially I would have been over right now, hand over the mic, but because we're a tiny bit behind on the schedule, I've got technically another 14 minutes. Questions you likely have. How do you determine where to place the protective stops? How about trailing stop placement, right? Trailing stop means moving a stop in the direction of your profitable trade to capture more and more of the existing profit. Are there other entry signals associated with RSI power zones? How do I put all this together from the first steps of making a trade to the last? These might be just some of your questions, but I'm pretty sure everyone in here had at least one of these swirling in their brain if it hadn't been typed in the room. Well, as I mentioned earlier, what I just taught you was a sneak into the vault, if you will, and now you have the opportunity to get the full Monty, right? Top trading strategies using RSI power zones. What is that? What does it contain? Well, the first instant access piece, because this is all online based, is video tutorials. This covers how to incorporate RSI power zones into all 8 phases of the trading process. Everything from trend assessment and signal observation to trade exit and review. Specific trade setups, the one I showed you, retaught right there, okay, as well as additional ones. And I show you how to adjust them based on your risk tolerance. That's super important, right? Everybody has different account sizes, different personality styles, and I give you insight as well as specifics on how to do that. And there's more. So this is the first instant access piece that's there. The other instant access pieces there are my cheat sheets. Remember early in this presentation, guys, I showed you those index card sized images that I made, right, out of reading the Gann book. Well, I have kept with creating my own visuals, especially anything that's handy to remember something quick while trading. So this is a PDF that you instantly can go download. It follows along with the tutorial material. In fact, before you watch the videos, I recommend downloading the cheat sheets, having them ready either on your screen to mark digitally or printed out on 8.5 by 11 inch paper, and then use it as a handy guide while you learn and while you real-time trade. Okay? I do this for every course I have, and the top trading course is no exception. Instant access number 3, the RSI Power Zones indicator. This is built in. So here are the current platforms for which it's available. TradeStation, Thinkorswim, NinjaTrader 8 and 7, Sierra Chart, Trade Navigator, eSignal, and then I have one long-time subscriber who uses Ensign, so he provided setup instructions. Now, for all of these little buttons, you click, you download a file, but before you do that, make sure you read the instructions that are underneath. In fact, for Thinkorswim, there's a whole video of exactly how to get this installed, and you can get that up and running right away. If you have any issues, administrative problems, anything, my support team will be there bright and early Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, and they will help you get everything loaded. But you will be able to access the course and be able to go through all this starting today. You don't have to wait till Monday to go get it. It's just that if you need any technical help, they're there Monday morning. Now, there's also a live bonus session. Okay, this is not instant because I need you guys to have some time to watch the videos, go through the PDF, use the indicator. So this is already scheduled out. This is already out there on my calendar for Wednesday, July 11th from 12 p.m. noon Eastern to 1 p.m. A whole hour, you and me, we just get right into it, okay, and we cover questions and answers that I will provide you, so you can submit those questions in advance or come to the event with them. I will review your markets. You will give me your tickers, and I will go through them. And if you give them to me in advance, I will absolutely go through them in advance to look for current setups. No, dear, and the cheat sheet is part of the course, okay? Session will be recorded and placed in your course portal for lifetime access. So if you can't make it live July 11th, you know, it's summer, you have vacation, your kids need to be dropped or picked up from camp, whatever it is, I get it, but you will have access to that and the recording will go in your portal. So this is a lot of stuff, so I want to make sure you guys understand what it is and what the value is of it here. But before we do that, I want to give you words from my own subscribers and students who have used this. RSI Power Zones indicator came to life last summer. Like I said, this is my 1-year anniversary event with TradeThirsty. I had been using it on my own for many years, but I finally started offering it to the public. And here's what a few people have to say. In just a few months, Hima's RSI indicator has become the standard on all of my charts. Metastock, Thinkorswim, NinjaTrader, says Rob in Canada. I installed the RSI Power Zones indicator, and it's just amazing how accurate it is. On all markets, it actually gives advance warning before the price moves, says David in Washington. Susie from Colorado said, my first month using RSI Power Zones was also my best trading month so far. Okay, this is what people wrote in and told me, and I asked them, hey, can I share this with the world? And they said yes. So here's a special offer for you guys here at Toasted Traders, okay? Again, here's a quick recap of everything in there. First, you've got the on-demand video tutorials and the cheat sheets. Okay, the value of this education is $19.97. It's not what you're going to pay, but that's the value of it. The live Q&A bonus session, okay, that time spent with me in a group call where we get to go through all your questions and work that out on this, is $197. And the RSI Power Zones indicator is $297 standalone. That's what it sells for standalone on Signal websites. All of this together is a value of $24.91. But today, you can get it for just a one-time payment of $297, and you can sign up at himaready.com/top, T-O-P, as in top trading strategies. All right, so you get the on-demand video tutorials, the cheat sheets, and the indicator right away. And then the Q&A bonus session is out on July 11th. Gives you plenty of time with the holiday and all to study the material, come up with your questions, and we go through them together. Now, I need to know how serious you are about moving forward with me, but I need to also give you a little bit of time, okay? It's Saturday, so I'll give you the day. So the doors close tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. Okay, at that time, that page will not let you enter the class. It will redirect. So why do you need this course? Why can't you just take this one signal I've taught you and run with it? Well, for starters, you need the full system around it. Other entries, the exit approach, stop placements to optimize your use of RSI Power Zones. It combines my GAN analysis approach with this powerful indicator. And save yourself time and money in the long run. So this is access to just the course titled Top Trading Strategies Using RSI Power Zones. Okay, so if you go to my website and see that tile, this is what that's for. Everything I teach you is to teach you how to recognize signals the way I do. I'm telling you right now, this is not automated. You're not going to get arrows telling you what to do. But my signals are very clear and easy, which is why, as you saw from the quotes I just read you, people were able to take my education, take my coaching, and then go recognize these signals on their own. In fact, when I released this particular course, Norm in Ontario said the following, okay? A day after learning one of Hima's RSI Power Zones trendline buy signals, or that signal, I tested it out on a 5-minute chart of Tesla. With this one trade, I made enough to cover the cost of her Top Trading Strategies course. And he came in and he got it later because that was a pre-release that I did to my existing subscribers and students. So he was able to get in on it early and had a little bit of a bigger window. Okay. Now, here's what happens after you sign up, because you guys are being here in front of all kinds of great speakers and great content. So your email inbox after you sign up for all these great products, or a handful of them, is going to be very confusing. So I need to clarify for you what's coming from me and what you need to see to know you're all hooked in. So email subject line and from email address. I am literally laying out for you. First, you'll get an email that says your course access top trading strategies using RSI Power Zones. The from email address will be support@himaready.com. Straight up, okay? This is exactly what you should see. This way, too, if you don't get it, you know what to look for in your spam folder. Then you will get an email that the subject says, Top Trading Strategies using RSI Power Zones bonus session 7/11/18 confirmation. This comes from customer care at GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar provides events like TradeThirsty's events, and I use it, and I know some of my colleagues use it. However, this is technology. It can be finicky. If you do not get this confirmation email within a day or two, contact GoToWebinar directly if you're having issues, or go dig in your spam. Of course, you can always contact my team, but GoToWebinar, sometimes their emails for confirmations are a little slow or get lost. The last thing is your receipt. My company's name is Seller Wealth LLC. My name is Hima Reddy. My domain name is himaready.com. So you'll get a subject line, receipt, and it'll come from hima.reddy@himareddy.com. So that's the layout here. So I'm going to repeat for you here on this slide what we've got going on, and I still have, I'm going to use them, my 4 minutes to go to live TradeStation charts. Does the indicator generate signals with arrows or sounds? No, Tony, like I said, but I teach you exactly what to look for, and because my indicator is so clean, it's very easy to see and follow in your own charts, and you get to ask me about them, okay? This access to both your courses, I already answered that. This is just for top trading strategies using RSI power zones. Let me make my little window bigger. Okay, so why don't you guys give me your tickers in here? Okay, sure, Apple. Let me go ahead and, oh, actually oil. I had this ready because I wanted to show you guys, okay? So let me just keep this off to the side for a second. Keep this for you here. Remember, doors close at 10 p.m. tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, that is. I hope it's great weather where you all are, but it's like a cool and cloudy summer day here in Buffalo, so I'd probably end up spending a fair amount of time indoors. But yeah, 10 p.m., so you've got basically 9 hours to figure out if this is what you want to get in on and get started. So here with oil, this reflects upon a video I put out about how I saw a key timing point coming up in oil. But look, guys, down here, this I drew in today. We have an RSI trendline buy signal set up emerging. What do we still need? We still need the third touch. So if we get any sort of pullback in oil after Friday's huge giant bar to the upside, I would watch very carefully. I'm going to even tell you what to look at, okay? The lows that are connecting the RSI, as per my TradeStation, is June 4th and then June 15th. June 4th and June 15th, all right? Now, let me see what other tickers you guys are asking about. Okay, Adobe, sure. Adobe. Oh, actually, somebody said Apple first. Let me look at Apple. All right. We may or may not have the RSI trendline buy on here, but we may have just general price action. So here on Apple, actually, I pointed this out recently too publicly about key support here at the old high from March 13th. Look at the RSI power zones, guys. They are held here in the bull support power zone. I see a question. So guys, if you already have my other products that have the RSI power zones indicator, this is different. This is not a course that was ever offered for $97 row. That was a different course. So the best price possible for top trading strategies using RSI power zones is $297. I know it already includes the indicator, but you're getting so much more value with education, with the bonus session. So that's the arrangement that we have. All right. So it's $297, whether you have the indicator previous or not. When I release new courses, when I have existing customers and subscribers, when they're brand new courses, that's when I put them at a deep discount if you're already in my himareddy.com members family, meaning you're either a skinny subscriber or you've bought a course of mine. So if you are brand new to my work, then the next course I put out, which I'm working on definitely at least one more this calendar year, you will get a sneak peek into it and get it deeply discounted versus my public offerings. Okay, good. Glad I clarified. So here's Apple. There's no setup for the RSI trendline buy, but bull support. Okay, I'm running out of time, but I will go to Adobe. Just type that in since I see it being asked as well. All right, we don't have the RSI trendline setup that I just showed you. However, we do have the RSI pulling back into the bull support power zone. This is an uptrend in this chart, obviously. So I would keep an eye on a couple things. So for starters, so let me show you something that actually is interesting. I do timing work as well, and 259.22 was an upside forecast target I had. I didn't even realize this until today. We came to 258.91. 258.91 as opposed to 259.22. Pretty close. All right, guys, I'll do one more, and then I've got to hand the mic back to Jeanette. So MU, I see someone emphatically asking, so I will honor that. And here we go. Well, what do I see here? Let's go ahead and draw a line. Now, this is not an established price downtrend, but we are consolidating. So I'm going to take off a couple things here that aren't helping us out anymore. And let's look at the fact that this is consolidating, all right? If you get weakness below this low here, then you can come in and draw this setup that's right here. look, we have it happening, guys. The thing is, though, this is not a confirmed downtrend. So I would not consider taking this trade at all unless and until we get a closing break below 56.62. Then you can sell on a rebound because you have the fall here. All right, guys, that's it for me. I don't want to push the schedule back any further. Thank you so much for your time. Again, please type a V for me if you got something out of my lesson here today, if you found it valuable, V for valuable. And with that, you can sign up at himareddy.com/top. That's the class opening I have here for you today. Appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in there.